Welcome back now to our very first story. Power distribution firm gov't has attributed yesterday's power outages in parts of the country to a system failure. The challenge resulted in blackouts running into several hours. This is the second time this year the nation has experienced such a problem. So is it more of a challenge with equipment being used or a generation issue? Mark Barr is the Director of System Operations at gov't.
7:30. There was a swing on the tie line, what we call the tie line. That is the line between, transmission line between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. That created some instability in the system, and as a result, we lost the generators in the western part of the country. You know, basically our generation is in the west and then in the east. So we lost all the generators in the western part of the country. Now what happens is that we've installed quite a number of relays in the system and the entire country. So these are meant to make sure that the system does not collapse in such eventuality. So we had to knock off a lot of our load. So eventually the Ghana power system was running on units, generating units in the eastern part of the country. So that resulted in the massive outages that we saw.
For you as a transmitter, you think there's no cause for alarm?
Oh, there is no cause for alarm.
You're not back to Dumso?
No. We have enough generation, in fact, more than enough to go around, so there's no cause for alarm.
You think that the state of our transmission lines are still in good shape?
Technicians and engineers are working hard to make sure that our lines are always up to task, and we just hope such incidents don't repeat themselves. And we're working hard for Ghana, and we assure customers that we will work as hard as possible to keep everybody online with the lights on.
Now, still in the energy sector, Ghana will incur about $700 million in debt every year if government implements all its power purchase agreements. The Minister of Energy, Boakye Agyarko, made the revelation at the opening of this year's Ghana Energy Summit under the theme, The Future of Energy in Ghana. The Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, in March, hinted some $300 million had been saved in government's first 100 days in office after reviewing major power purchase agreements. Mr. Boakye Agyarko has also indicated consumers have to pay more for power if government approves all the agreements.
The debilitating power crisis that frustrated households and industry, bruised the economy, and institutionalized Dumso in our lexicon speaks volumes of the weaknesses inherent in our power subsector development and governance. Knee-jerk reactions to the crisis led to the overprocurement of expensive thermal power capacity with serious financial consequences. If all the power purchase agreements currently in place are implemented, the nation will incur annual extra capacity charges of nearly $700 million. Deals-driven generation capacity procurement has resulted in a very high average tariff for power, making our power the most expensive in the sub-region. Ladies and gentlemen, the fact that some industries and commercial entities are generating their own electricity using diesel is not only an amplification of the growing non-competitiveness of our tariff regime, but also points to the convoluted tariff structure. Our tariff structure does not provide adequate safeguards for the vulnerable, such as those living in compound houses, and unfairly penalizes industry. Lack of clarity of government policy in the past on subsidies, payments of electricity consumed by MMDAs and other public institutions has resulted in huge government indebtedness to our power utilities.
Mr. Boakye Agyarko also added that the lack of clear policy guidelines on previous energy agreements resulted in the about $2.24 billion energy sector debt. This, according to him, is also to blame for the high tariffs currently being experienced by consumers.
This debt situation has been exacerbated by unacceptable distribution losses, utilization of expensive short-term loans by power utilities, among others, resulting in a huge sector indebtedness of nearly $2.4 billion US. I often say that I'm the most indebted minister in the country. While the National Electrification Scheme has made significant progress, with a national electrification access rate of nearly 84%, achieving universal access by our target date of 2020 remains a daunting task. Many of the communities yet to be covered are largely remote island communities and isolated inland villages. These will require innovative technologies to achieve adequate coverage and, of course, at a considerably higher cost.
Energy Minister Boakye Agyarko. Let's now cross over live to the Kempinski Hotel, where the Energy Summit is currently going on, and we're linking up with our man Ebenezer Sabute for some more updates. Ebenezer.
Hello, Emmanuel.
Yes, if you can hear me, who else have been speaking and what are they saying?
Okay, Yima, over here at the Kempinski Hotel is where the Energy Summit is going on under the topic, the future of energy in Ghana. And we had representation from the Ministry of Finance in the person of the Deputy Minister of Finance, that is Mr. Edubuahin, who has been given some commitment by the government in terms of financing the energy sector. We also had a lecture or kind of a talk from Mr. Kwame Pianim, who was giving us some policy measures that government needs to pursue in order to end the doomsaw issue. He spoke specifically about yesterday's power crisis, which we all had, last night, saying it's because of lack of planning by government to put in place all the necessary measures in order to solve the situation. So there has been so much presentations. We also have some international investors giving us some clear guidelines as to how to go if we really want to solve the power crisis. If you can see me in here, we have some stakeholders who have also displayed their products in terms of power transmission and all sorts of, anything that has to do with energy, Yima.
Now, I'm interested in what exactly they are saying about the policy measures that government will have to take to mitigate the impact of this power crisis. What exactly have they been saying, the speakers that you mentioned?
Okay, according to Mr. Boakye Agyarko, it's true the sector is facing so much debt, but the only problem now is infrastructure. Even though when they are able to resolve all the debt crisis, they still have to, manage the infrastructure problems that we are facing, because we cannot do without infrastructure. So what they are going to do is to take on massive infrastructure drive so that we can be able to solve the issue. It's not only about the energy sector debt, but we have issues with infrastructure, and that is what the government is going to do. They are going to resolve the debt crisis, but also take on massive infrastructure drive.
Now, Ebenezer, in the breakaway session, we're supposed to have the MD for Tallow Oil, Charles Darko, facilitate. What do you know about what he's going to talk about, and who else is participating?
Okay, in the breakaway session, as you said, we are going to have Charles Darko in there. The topics are going to be varied, from the power sector, gas, and then also TEMA, and then also the happenings in the TEM field. Stakeholders here are going to be updated on what is happening on the field. So far as we have Tallow and then Cosmos here, issues like that are going to come up. It's not only Tallow and Cosmos who are here, but we have the bulk oil storage and distribution, who is also representing part of the sector here. The National Petroleum Authority is also well represented here, as well as Gridco.
All right, thank you very much. Any other information we need to know?
Okay, the energy minister in his speech indicates that government is developing an LPG policy such that they are going to drive a kind of, agenda so that homes will be linked with the use of LPG, and then it will be done. It's going to be done in a safe way. So there are so many issues being discussed here. When I get to the studio, I'll give further updates, Ima.
Thank you very much, Ebenezer Sabute. Ebenezer Sabute is covering this year's edition of the Energy Summit, which is currently going on at the Kempinski Hotel in Accra. Away from that, the Ghana Chamber of Commerce has launched the maiden edition of the Chamber Business Awards 2016. The aim of the awards is to make Ghana's private sector competitive on the world market. Charles Aite is currently taking part at the event and is joining us live with some updates. Charles.
Brings up the very maiden edition, the launch of the maiden edition of the Chamber of Commerce edition of the Awards 2016. This very awards, which is under the theme Enterprises in Transition, recognizing innovative businesses in Ghana, has several angles to it. Top of the agenda has to do with how to make the private sector business very much competitive in their field of work. And I do have here with me the president of the chamber, Nana Apia J. Dankawos I, and as well the chairman of the Planning Select Committee, who is going to be overseeing this entire competition, which is about this entire award ceremony, I should rather say, which is about taking place. So I want to start off with you, Nana. First of all, what happens to be the main idea behind this very awards ceremony?
Thank you, my brother. The issue has been that this is an opportune time to say a big thank you to industries, commerce, and trade. And so we thought it prudent that we recognize the contribution of these sectors or these companies in the socio-economic development of this country. All this while, we have been thinking about how we could do it, and this is the opportune time. And so that's we have appointed Mrs. Okutu as the chairperson of this noble event, and we have met here today to launch the program. And on 25th of November 2017, at the banquet hall, we are going to have the awards dinner.
All right. So speaking about the awards, Mrs. Okutu, you are the chairman of the select committee. What are we looking out for from these private sector businesses? What's the criteria for selection?
Some of the criteria for selection would be competitiveness, innovation, technology, the type of technology we are using, your social responsibility, of course, your annual turnover, among others. We have a whole list of criteria that we are dealing with together with Ernst & Young to use in the selection process.
But speaking about the selection process, I may want to come back to you. And there's been so many challenges facing the private sector over the past few years, and various engagements with you have revealed some of them. Government in, government out, with this new administration and the programs in place, do you think that government is in the right direction to tackle these challenges?
Yes, my brother. And that's why in my speech I said that even though we have gone through thick and thin, but we have seen that the government is doing its best to make sure they provide conducive atmosphere for businesses to thrive. And so if you look at we have been talking about the treasury bill rates, interest rates, borrowing rates, and so many other things. The doomsday came along the line, and now it has been subsided. The treasury bill rate as at yesterday for 1 year, 15.5%, and the bank rate has also come down a bit. It is not the best, but we are hoping that interest rate will come down for businesses to use or borrow more money to expand their businesses and to create more jobs for the teeming youth. A lot of people have completed their various educational levels and they don't get work to do. Seriously, if you are able to provide enough funds at low rates, I think businesses will be able to expand and employ more other people. So we hope to achieve this, and that can be done by only the private sector. The government doesn't do business, and if you look at the the workforce now, the government employs only 4%, and the private sector employs about 94%. And that tells you that if the private sector is well managed and we hold the bull by the horn and push it forward, there will be more employment avenues that will be created.
Okay, let me end with you, Mrs. Okotu. Nana has rightly stated the challenges that the private sector is being faced with and the steps that government has taken so far to address these challenges. But how many companies are we expecting under this very award ceremony?
We have the award winners probably will be up to 20 award winners. This is a maiden awards program, and therefore we are limited by what time. We should be able to open up more to other sectors, but we know that awards, when you have an award winner, it opens the gate for the person to perform well, and they can easily seek international partners because they know that that person is trustworthy and has integrity and other things. Because our awards is being assessed by Ernst & Young independently, and we know it will give it the needed boost for other private sectors.
All right, so that was a man, Charles Aite, interacting with some officials of the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Now, away from that, according to the World Bank, corruption and regulatory mismanagement of Ghana's cocoa industry are denting production and harming farmers. The report by the World Bank also says the issue of underpayment of farmers hinders future investment within the sector and has thus underlined the need for reforms. This report comes to confirm that there are serious challenges plaguing the industry as government hopes to increase cocoa production output from 800,000 metric tons to 1 million metric tons by the year 2020. On Industry Watch today, we ask, what is the true state of Ghana's cocoa sector? Are the major stakeholders to blame? What is the fate of the Cocoa Processing Company Limited regarding its performance on the Ghana Stock Exchange? And what factors is Cocoa Board, the major shareholder, likely to consider in making a decision for CPC to delist or remain on the stock market? We'll be joined live by our Deputy Minister for Agric. But first, let's watch the Managing Director of the Ghana Stock Exchange, Kofi Yamwa, on what he thinks about the listing of the CPC.
Let's focus on the key issue. The key issue is the performance difficulties of the company. For me, I'll be more interested in solving the performance issues of the company than deciding whether to list or not to list. At the end of the day, if the company is doing well, then probably it becomes a selling story for others to follow. So the last time, my point I made was that it's ways in the remit of a company to decide whether to be on the market or not. So if a company is already on and decides to move on, I mean, they just have to follow the due process that we have in place. But at the end of it, when you have moved on, have you solved the issues at hand? No. So for me, the issue is not whether to delist or not to delist. The issue is the performance of the company. What is mitigating against the performance of the company? Sitting here, my gut feeling is that it's more to do with, one, sales or capacity. If they're able to produce more and sell more, but if you're not able to pay your suppliers of raw materials, then it becomes an impediment for production and sales. To me, that is the crux of the matter.
All right, so we heard from the MD for the Ghana Stock Exchange, but let's now go on the phone lines and speak with the Deputy Minister of Agric in charge of cocoa, William Kwetu, on his take on this particular issue. Now, good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the marketplace. Now, if you can hear me, what do you think about CPC's delisting? What's your view on that?
Well, I don't see how delisting CPC is really going to change the fortunes of CPC. CPC is owned partly by the private sector and partly by Ghana Cocoa Board. Ghana Cocoa Board shares in there is mainly to do with supply of raw cocoa beans so they could process it, make money, and then pay Cocoa Board back. Now, the situation is such that because production is not so high, remember we hit 1 million tons in 2010-2011 season. Since that time, production has slammed down. We are not getting enough. Besides, we go to the world market, as the previous government goes to take a huge chunk of loans, and we have to service the loans with cocoa beans. And so after servicing the loans with certain quantity of these cocoa beans, what is left is so small that it is not able to go around and sell to those who have money and give some to CPC. So the main lack of supply of beans to CPC. I believe strongly that if this trend should change, if we are able to produce more, if we are...
All right, Mr. Kwetu, it looks like we know the problem, but we can't solve it. What exactly is hindering our cocoa production output for which CPC could hinder on to make gains?
A number of issues, a number of strategies that were adopted by the previous government did not help with cocoa production, and we are turning around all these strategies. I mean, one had to do with particularly the way fertilizer was supplied. Fertilizer was supplied, it was said to be free, and it was given to people who, to me, were not real and good cocoa farmers. You see, if we are giving something for free, the money belongs to the people, belongs to the government, and they go to buy. We are not able to supply everybody's requirements. Assuming maybe 100 tons of fertilizer is needed, Cocoa Board could only supply 40, 50 maximum, 1,000. And so once it cannot go around to meet the needs of every cocoa farmer, conism, friendship, my brother, my sister will come in. And so they were giving it to people whose farms, to me, actually were not good enough to make very good use of this fertilizer. That was one thing. That is one of the major things. Right. Chemical supplies, spraying, mass spraying, was also followed by in the same way. And right. So farms which were old and would not fruit well were getting, those people were getting, as long as you had a party card and all that.
All right. Mr. Kwetu, you just hold on a minute. I'll get on the other line to speak with the head of research of Data Bank, Mr. Alex Boahin, on his take also on the fact that CPC not doing well and wants to delist. Is it that easy for a company to delist from the stock exchange if indeed it is not doing well? What's the implication, Mr. Ahin? Mr. Boahin, if you can hear me.
Hello. Yes, I can hear you. I think the previous speaker rightly mentioned that. From my point of view, the fundamental issue with CPC cannot be resolved by just delisting the company. If you look at the balance sheet of CPC currently, things are not looking really pretty. I mean, technically the bank is heading towards, the company is heading towards bankruptcy. And the fundamental issue is high debt. And also lack of working capital. So unless the government, together with the major shareholders, including Cocoa Board and also Senate, comes up to find a good strategy to actually solve this fundamental problem, delisting cannot turn around the fortunes of the company.
So what exactly do you think CPC must do, apart from the fact that its production and sales capacity is still dwindling? What exactly should the company do to stay on the market?
Yes, obviously, as I mentioned, I mean, just getting a company off the market does not automatically cure the company from its problems. I mean, what they can do, in my point of view, is that they need to restructure the balance sheet first, take care of the current debt levels and also ensure that they have enough working capital for growth.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Boyne. Let me go back to the minister. Mr. Minister, there's a new World Bank report which is citing corruption and regulatory mismanagement of the cocoa sector in Ghana as having dented production and also harming farmers. What's your response to that?
Well, I don't know. You see, when you read that report, it doesn't really give the reasons as to why production is decreasing. It only says due to corruption. And come to think of it, I might side with them by saying that, of course, when you say, if you see a balance sheet and look at the accounts of how much was used in buying cocoa fertilizer, for instance, for supplies, and you are able to do an audit of how much fertilizer really got onto cocoa farms, okay, and then vis-a-vis the mass spraying strategy, you realize that huge sums of money have been pumped into fertilizer and chemicals. But with these figures actually go onto the cocoa farms, if we do, and production should be around that 750 that we have recorded in the last 4 or 5 years. So if anybody sees somewhere, right, so corruption, production is not going up, probably that's what the person is referring to. I will not sue away from that at all. I think that is why they are saying that. You see, when you invest, you must be on the farms. And they must be on correct farms. You see, fertilizer, if you apply fertilizer to a 30-year-old farm or disease farm, you have done nothing. You have thrown the fertilizer away. You go to of the list. You ask of the list and you say, this person got this quantity of fertilizer, this person got this quantity of fertilizer. Go to the farm and go and check the person's farm and look at the production level of that person. What quantities the person achieved within that year? If you're a scientist like me, nobody will tell you that it's really a lie.
All right. So now is the issue of giving away of cocoa farms for galamsey or having done that in the past, has it also affected the future of the industry? That
is only recent. That is only recent. In fact, this effect has been there only for the last 2 years or so. It's quite recent. But you see, when we had the 1 million tons, we thought that we were going to be able to sustain it. It didn't happen.
All right.
So, we recorded even as low as 720.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. And that was the minister, deputy minister, of course, in charge of Agric, in charge of cocoa. Now, before we finally go, Mr. Boahen, an international commodity like cocoa not doing well on the international market, and of course translating into the poor performance of the commodity right here on our local market. Do you think it's time to give another commodity a comparative, force or comparative advantage over the other, the traditional cocoa that we've had in the past?
Well, our comparative advantage in terms of cocoa production is not going anywhere. We still have that advantage going forward because of basically our geographical location, and also the fact that cocoa as a crop cannot be mechanized. There's some limitation as to the extent to which the production can be mechanized, and that also gives Africa or a developing country like Ghana some level of comparative advantage. But I must also say that the cocoa board is in a tight situation as we speak, because prices are not doing very well on the international market. For instance, the price recently has been hovering around $2,000 per metric ton, and last year, before the government set the producer price index at the producer price at 7,600 tons, cocoa prices were above 3,000 per ton on the international market. So if you look at currently, if you look at the numbers, the cocoa, it's difficult for the cocoa board to this year increase prices, the farm gate prices for farmers, because the prices are very low per estimates. Currently, the cocoa board is paying around $1,700 to cocoa farmers, a commodity that is selling at below $2,000. So the cocoa board is in a tight situation now, and this year, unfortunately or rightly, they will not be able to pay bonuses for cocoa farmers. But as I mentioned earlier, our comparative advantage is one is geographical, because cocoa seem to do very well along the equator, some degree along the equator. So the comparative advantage will still remain. Okay. What we need to do going forward is to have a holistic approach to how we can augment volume going forward. Ivory Coast has been successful in doing that over the past years. Unfortunately, when we reached around 1 million metric tons in 2011, everybody expected that we will continue to ramp up production, but unfortunately, we have disappointed as a nation.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Boahen, for your input into this afternoon's discussion. Mr. Boahen, Alex Boahen, is the head of research department of Data Bank, and we've also been speaking with the Deputy Minister of Agric in charge of cocoa, William Kwetu. And that brings us to the end of this edition of the Marketplace. Many thanks for watching. Let's meet again same time tomorrow for another interesting package. My name is Emmanuel Apwaji. Good afternoon.